Okay, in this video, let's do some more coding experiments with our rotate. So I'm going to click this button and it added a class, a CSS class. So let me show you this code. So I have these list of buttons right here, and on the page, that's these buttons. Okay? So right now, what I did is I have an image, it's a desert image, and I don't need that add button anymore. So when I click the button with an ID of rotate X, let's look at the JavaScript with that. I'm going to add, when I click it, I'm going to get the image and I'm going to add a class of rotate X. So let's take a look at that class of rotate X. So what I'm going to do is the transition property is going to be the rotate X, and if you look down here, I'm going to transform it by 180 degrees. So if I change that to 45 degrees, and let's take a look at, and I'm going to change the Y to 45 degrees because I have the same button. When I click the rotate Y button, I'm going to add the rotate Y class. So let's take a look at that. Refresh. I'm going to rotate X. See, it rotated it by 45 degrees. Now rotate Y. It rotated it by 45 degrees, but on the Y axis. So let's go back to the code and copy. Let's create some more of these event handlers. Copy that twice, and on the one I'm going to change, I'm going to get the scale ID. Okay, so I'm going to, when I click that, I'm going to get the image again. This time I'm going to add the class, call it scale. Okay, so now let's go and I'm going to also go ahead and copy that one more time. I'm going to change that to skew. That's a skew X. Now we're going to add that skew X class. I'm going to copy that one more time. Change that to a skew Y and a skew Y. So we're going to be making these classes. So let's go up here and right here in the CSS, let's see. Okay. Scale. I need to give it a transition property, and that's going to be, well, scale. So for right now, we're just declaring the property. So we need to get the other properties, our transition duration and our transition timing function. Now, we do need our transition duration, but we don't need our timing function because we're just using the default, which is ease anyway. So now let's create the actual transform, and that's going to be scale. We have to decide, well, how much do we want to scale it? So what we do is use decimals. A 0.5 is 1/2. So let's take a look at that. So when I refresh, I'm going to click the transform scale button, and the image scales down to 1/2 of its size. So I can make that 1.1, which is 1/10. Or you can make it go all the way to 0, and it completely hides it. Now, if we add, we can make the number 2. That's going to grow. Watch, it's going to be 2 times its size. It scales up 2 times. A decimal scales it down. Also, we can transition other properties. So let's do the opacity at the same time. But we need to change our transition property to all. Okay, now let's refresh. Now we scale up, but it also disappears, it fades out. Okay, so let's try something. Let's go back to the code and add some more images. Okay, so I made some changes. I added some images. Now I also have positioned those images so that they're sitting on top of each other. So they're position absolute. I also made some changes to our JavaScript. I'm linked now to a jQuery library because I want to run this function. So what I'm going to do is when I click on the image that I click on is going to have this class called scale, and what it does is it scales the image down and its opacity to 0 in a time of 2 seconds. So let's try that out. I'm going to click the image, and then I click the next image, next, and next. So that's kind of like a slideshow. Okay, let's try another one. Let's go back to the code, and so instead of the scale, let's give it a class of, let's give it the rotate X. See what that looks like. But let's go up here and change some of the class. Let's rotate it by, let's see. Let's go 90 degrees. Okay. Now we have to put the degrees in there. Also transition the opacity to 0. Okay, so since we really should change our property to the all keyword, so we're going to translate everything. So refresh, click the image, see it rotates down and then fades out. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, and so experiment with it, and we'll do some more experiments in the next video. So anyway, thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please share it with people, and if you want to see more, subscribe, and I'll keep making these videos. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. We'll do some more coding experiments with our transition, transforms, and maybe create some more slideshows.